from the Sedgwick County Zoo, and today we're in the Veldt barn. And we have Blake here, and he's going to talk to us about a really cool animal. What do you have with us today, Blake?
Hi everybody. So what we've got here today for you is our 3 young male Nyala that we got in towards the beginning of this month. So these guys are brand new to our zoo, the Nyala. They are a host stock species that is endemic to Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. So they are only found in southeastern Africa. So Nyala here are really unique as well in the sense of they are the one of the few species of hoofstock in terms of antelope that actually will get long hair, and they will grow a very long mane on their back here. They'll get very long beards, and then the males tend to lose their stripes on their bodies, and they will actually turn a so these are all juvenile male Nyala, so they still have all of their young coloring as well as the same colors that the females are. Now female Nyala don't have horns, and the males do. So these guys, the Nyala, when they get their horns fully grown in, they will actually be spiraled horns. So they will twist up to about 2 to 2.5 times, and they can get up to about 1.5 to 2 feet long. So the 3 individuals that we have here, the guy standing right in front of me is our middle child. He is Hendrix, and he is actually the bravest, as you can kind of tell. To check everything out first, but he is the middle child. Walker, who just went over next door, is our oldest, as you might notice from his horns. And then our young boy that just went outside is Jameson. And so they all came to us from Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. So that's kind of a neat fact from where they came from. So Nyala are also a gregarious species of antelope. So they live in groups. Now, when they're living in groups, come here, buddy, okay. When they live in groups, typically it's a group of females, which might include a couple of unrelated females, and then they will have their daughters, and when their daughters are old enough to have young, then they will also have those daughters. So it's kind of a loosely related congregation of females. The males will oftentimes live on their own, or they will form little bachelor herds. So they don't necessarily have close family ties to each other, or close bonds with each other. They can actually come and go between different groupings of Nyala on a pretty regular basis. So sometimes they have been known to leave a group and kind of wander off to another group within 2 hours. So Nyala also live in some pretty neat habitat. So they actually live in a mixture of forest areas and what then will kind of change into scrublands and shrublands. So it's a mixture of really dense thickets and a little bit of open area. So they typically won't go out just into the wide open unless it's at night and they're wanting to graze. So these guys are what we consider browsers. The Nyala like to eat things like fruits, flowers, leaves off of trees or low-growing trees. They are actually very, not necessarily unique, but they're very special in the sense that they have such a varied diet, and they are able to survive and thrive so well because they eat so many different types of food, and they aren't super picky eaters that rely on only one food source. Now they they do require water every single day in the wild, so they are oftentimes found very near surface water. Now, as some of you may know, surface water isn't always readily available in Africa, so during some of the dry seasons when there isn't surface water available for months on end, they do still drink water every day, but oftentimes they'll have to rely on other species such as elephants or other diggers that will dig in the riverbeds.
That is so cool. How many of our Nyala did you say that we have now, Blake?
So we have 3 young male Nyala. So like I said, they have all of their juvenile coloring still, but they will get much darker gray and they will get much longer hair all over their bodies, but especially along the back of their spines, and then they will get beards and their tails will fluff out really well too.
They seem to be pretty curious with the iPad.
Yep, so it also helps that since these guys are so young, they don't have a whole lot of experience with new things, so anything that they haven't really seen before, they're very curious about and want to figure out what it is. So like a lot of other hoof stock, Nyala do have bottom incisors, but they don't have upper incisors, those front teeth. So they actually have a very rough upper roof of their mouth that they use to get those leaves and other types of food up there and crunch them up so that they can get them to the back of their mouth where their molars are.
Now, Blake, you were telling me something really cool about how they walk. What's different about the way they walk compared to some other gazelles?
So, Nyala, when they walk, it's kind of characteristic of their genus that they are one of the few species of hoof stock that will, as they're walking, if they're alerted by something, can mid-step stop and they'll look around while they have a foot or a leg still up in the air, which for the most part, most hoof stock don't do that because they want to be as able to just continue running or as flighty as possible, which isn't necessarily the case for these guys. So Nyala are really big on their defensive strategy of simply being concealed or being invisible to predators. So they rely very heavily on just camouflaging themselves. Now part of that is a strategy that they adopt when they're breeding or when they're having young. So when Nyala are first born, they will oftentimes be hidden away in a spot for about 3 weeks before they come out and actually start following mom around and actually doing other activities, things like that. So Nyala have a gestation of about 7 months. And like I said, when they're born, they kind of stay hidden for about 3 weeks. And then the Nyala have a lifespan of about 20 years, as long as they're healthy. So in the wild, it isn't typically that long because they're either going to become prey, or obviously wild has its challenges, much more so than sometimes the lovely health care that they can receive in our care. So, kind of like I was saying with their camouflage, that's part of the reason that they are so well camouflaged is because they want their babies to be safe.
So how old are these Nyala, Blake? I know you said they were juveniles, but what does juvenile look like for a Nyala?
So all 3 of our Nyala here are actually under a year old. And though that may sound concerning at first, Nyala, like I said, have a very loose social grouping. So these guys, the Nyala that we have here, they were all totally left with their mothers and their herds while it was necessary and while they were on their mother's milk and things like that. Now when they were old enough to start weaning off, their mothers would have done that, as well as the keepers there. But once they're old old enough to start eating completely solid foods and have really gotten everything that they need from their mothers, then they're going to start exploring more. And males in the wild have been known to wander off on their own at only a year to a year and a half years old.
All right, well, this was